Welcome back to Overtime. As Wall Street awaits a rate cut next month, Mike Santoli returns with a look at S&P 500 returns after the start of a Fed easing cycle. Mike, what'd you find?
Well, there's some contrasting stories around an initial rate cut in a cycle. First of all, don't fight the Fed suggests it's a generally bullish scenario for equities. And then the other side is people say, you know what, you're supposed to sell the first Fed rate cut because that often means the economy is weakening. Well, here's a little bit of the nuanced view based on historical precedent. This is S&P performance 1 year after the initial rate cut in a cycle. And what you see, up more than down. The two times we were down 1 year later in recent history, that was 01. That was 9 months after a major stock market peak and only a few months before the onset of a recession. And the other one, of course, was September of 07. That's as the stock market was peaking, and just a couple of months, really, you're basically in the recession at that point for the great financial crisis. But there's nuance here. So here we go, June of '89. 1 year later, stock market's up 13%. You didn't have a recession. However, a recession did start in 1990, 13 months later, and the stock market was actually lower a year and a half after that first cut. So it wasn't like you were completely out of the woods. This is the magic soft landing everyone's shooting for. That's 1995. Market went up 5 years in a row. This was 98. That was kind of insurance cuts when we had the kind of upset in the financial markets. Final one, 2019. We all remember that, right? August of 2019, you got rates trimmed. And then, of course, we did have a flash recession and COVID and then a 30% decline in the stock market. But then it went up so much that by August of 2020, we were higher than we were a year earlier, Morgan.
This is a fascinating chart to me, especially because we were just talking to Mohamed Al-Arian, and I asked him, given the aggressive Fed tightening cycle we've just come off of, whether we've ever seen a Fed move like that to hike rates and have it not result in recession. And he said no, but he also said, there's reason to think this time might be different.
Well, he did say that there were two soft landings. And so those two times, he said in the 60s and the 90s. So it's a minority of the instances. I would also say people sometimes say 1984 also counts there. You also had a peak and rates came down, didn't have a recession for several years. So it's not necessarily, in the bag that you're going to be able to avert things. But so many things about the current cycle have been a little bit unusual. I'm not exactly sure if we should just reach for the almanac and figure out how it's going to play.
I love that you two have been listening to each other on CNBC's air for the past hour. All right. Mike Santoli, thank you.
Yep.
Well, breaking news on Apple. Steve Kovac is here with that. Steve.
Hey there, Morgan. Yeah, Apple CFO Luca Maestri